Hey guys, this is Jet Black with All Star Reviews. Yesterday, while I was at my local comic shop, I picked up DC Comics Showcase All Star Comics, which stars the Justice Society of America. And this is a pretty big book. If I was to sit down for an hour or so, I could probably run through this. But instead of just running through the book really quickly, I'm going to take it issue by issue and do reviews of the content. um, Real quick, if you're not familiar with the Justice Society of America, I'll go over a few things about them, what makes All-Star Comics different from the DC Comics you may normally be familiar with, and I will also try my best to tell you which issues I really enjoyed and are good jumping on points, and which issues are kind of weird. So try and stick with me, I guess. So, it starts with a prologue that actually comes from Adventure Comics because this isn't the first All Star Comics. So, All Star Comics is something that started in the 1940s and dropped off for a while when the Justice League that most people are familiar with came around and we were reading their stories. Then, during the 1970s, All Star Comics came back, and this is what this covers. Now, I didn't know that when I bought it, but this isn't going to start all the way back with the first All Star Comics superhero team. It's going to start with them, yes, but after they've retired and come back out of retirement and decided to fight crime again. So the prologue that it sets up essentially tells you that the Justice League that you're familiar with, Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, they are all on Earth 1. And Earth 2 is the world that has the Justice Society of America, where they did have the whole Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman dichotomy, but there are a lot of differences on Earth 2. On Earth 2, Superman was never Superboy, so he didn't start fighting crime until he was an adult. The superheroes that more or less are starting in the 1970s on Earth 1 were retiring on Earth 2. And not really in the 1970s. They say that they were retiring around the time rock and roll became popular. But what they're trying to say is that superheroes appeared in World War II on Earth 2. But superheroes didn't appear on Earth 1, which are the heroes that we're familiar with, until after World War II. But by the time the superheroes on Earth 1 were starting, the superheroes on Earth 2 were retiring. Somewhere along the line, the Justice Society of America reforms, but not all of the members come back because, from what I can tell, Wonder Woman and Batman were totally in the Justice Society of America, but they're not now. So they're some of the people who retired when everybody retired. And Superman does not appear in number 58. So I think he's still retired at this point. They mention Superman briefly in number 58, but they don't really tell you where he is or what he's doing. So either he's retired or maybe he was busy doing something else during the events of this comic. The main thing that they want you to know is that the heroes have come out of retirement, they're meeting again with the Justice Society, and they're getting ready to kick some butt. The cover of the comic is kind of weird. It has Star Spangled Kid, Robin, and Power Girl flying over the fallen Justice Society of America. And you see Star Spangled Kid say, "But mister, you've got to fight the Super Squad." And when I saw this, I kind of thought that Robin, Power Girl, and Star Spangled Kid were going to be the antagonist, and that they essentially would start their own Teen Titans team called the Super Squad, and they would overthrow and defeat the Justice Society of America. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's not what happens. That's not what this book is about at all. If anything, Earth 2 really isn't for the whole teenage sidekick thing, because Robin is like a full grown adult. Power Girl is someone that Superman kept secret. So instead of letting Supergirl run around when she was like younger, he kept her secret, trained her or whatever, and now she is like at a full blown Superman level. Um, and Star Spangled Kid, I think, is actually the youngest, but he doesn't look that young when you put him like right next to Robin, which makes him just seem like an adult. Uh, so there aren't really teenage heroes in this. They are heroes, but they're young. They're young, and everybody else is old, and it makes them seem like they're the Teen Titans of this world. But they're like the age that our heroes are, like the age that New 52 Superman was before he died is like the age that like Robin and Power Girl and Star Spangled Kid are. Maybe Superman is a little bit older. These guys are like in their 20s, is what I'm saying. So they're not exactly teenagers. So the main story of number 58 is that there are these three natural disasters that are taking place around the world. And the Justice Society of America has been given this signal that's telling them this. They don't really specify the source of the signal at the beginning. And Dr. Midnight, who is this guy who's blind, but he can see through like infrared, which is weird. There's one part where they see Star Spangled Kid, and they're like, hey, look, it's Star Spangled Kid. And Dr. Midnight's like, oh, well, I can't really see him, but I recognize his heat signature. Yeah, that's Star Spangled Kid. And I thought that was weird, that he can like identify you by your heat signature. Like if you've ever looked at a heat signature through like infrared goggles, it's like a bunch of blurbs of colors in a human shape. And he's saying that he can look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's Star Spangled Kid. That's Billy down the street. Like, don't you know? Don't you know what they look like? But Dr. Midnight, who can't see, I'm pretty sure he can't see. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. He can't see other than like through his infrared vision. He says, I've triple checked my information. Within 24 hours, the world will end. So if they don't stop these three disasters that are happening around the world, that happen to be going on at the same time, then the entire world will end. So one thing that I like about the JSA that I'm going to bring up is that they definitely act as a team. And I was really surprised by that. Now, you may be like, don't the Justice League act as a team and all these other superhero groups? And I guess I don't really mean a team. I really mean like a club. They act like a legitimate club. Like, the beginning of the comic starts with them having a meeting about these natural disasters that are going on. And that, oh man, we got to figure out what to do. And as they're talking about what they should do, it's like, I'm going to make a proposal to the chair. And it's like, I second that, and I third. And it's like, well, I suppose I don't even need to vote. It's already a majority vote. And I don't know. I've never seen the Justice League do things where it's like, all in favor of sending Superman to save Metropolis, and they like raise hands. I thought it was kind of neat. It's something that I don't see a lot, at least in modern comics. But they split everybody up, and they send Dr. Midnight to Seattle with Hawkman, and then they send Flash and Wildcat to Peking, China, and then they send Dr. Fate and Green Lantern to Cape Town. So those are the locations of all the disasters that are going to take place. Star Spangled Kid happens to be flying around in Seattle. And yeah, I know, you probably don't know who Star Spangled Kid is. So Star Spangled Kid has the Cosmic Rod. And the Cosmic Rod, he straight up describes what it does. But as far as I'm concerned, it does whatever he wants it to do. Because I had never heard of him before. As he kept listing out his powers, it was like, how convenient that you happen to be able to do everything that you need to solve whatever problem you'd run into. So he claims that he can go anywhere with his Cosmic Rod. I don't think that's true. He's flying around a city so I know that it allows him to fly. But he talks about it as if like, if I wanted to go anywhere with the cosmic rod, I could, and like maybe he could. Um, but he's flown around the world, um, and I like how he says, with this cosmic rod gadget, I could go around the world or across Seattle with like an exclamation point, which no one would be that much more excited about going across Seattle than the world. But the reader is, because they know that there's going to be a disaster in Seattle. Okay, so he talks about how Starman has a broken leg, so he couldn't be Starman, and that Starman had the cosmic rod before, but because his leg's broken, he's like, "Oh, Star Spangled Kid, you just get to take the rod. You can just have it." Um, and he uses it to fight crime, and that's pretty much it. I find it weird that Starman has a broken leg, and like that's why Star Spangled Kid is Star Spangled Kid, because it makes it seem like eventually Starman's gonna come back, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Like the tone of this book makes it seem like I think Star Spangled Kid is like been Star Spangled Kid for a minute, like longer than it would take to recuperate a broken leg. So I just think that's his job now, and like Starman's retired, like he's found an heir. But Star Spangled Kid shows up and he stops a robbery, and they're essentially using this robbery as a way to show you what Star Spangled Kid can do. So he flies into these guys who are shooting bullets at him, and he talks about how his rod can create a force field when he wants to, and how his rod can also like melt things, and he like melts all the robbers' guns like at once, and then he just punches them out. So he can make force fields, he can fly, he's a hand-to-hand combatant, and he can melt things, and that's like all we really know that he can do. Immediately after he defeats these crooks, he sits on the sidewalk and he's really sad. And there's a woman who like looks at him, and a man. You know what? Everybody in the panel whose face you can see is like looking at him, and I don't blame them. Star Spangled Kid looks absolutely ridiculous. He wears this red, white, and blue suit, but it's like, you know, the corner of the American flag that's blue with all the white stars. He was like, I'll wear a leotard that just is that part of the flag, and it'll only go like from the waist up, and it'll have a full face mask that also is just blue with all the white stars on it. It's the tackiest suit in this whole book, and that's saying something for like heroes that are all done in the 40s style. And he has red pants and he has blue shoes. And I guess the only reason why I'm so critical of Star Spangled Kid is, one, he does look like insanely ridiculous, and sitting on the sidewalk with everyone looking at him doesn't make him seem like he'd be any better, like any less ridiculous, looking sad on the sidewalk. But also because there are so many characters that do the red, white, and blue motif, and they don't look stupid. Star Spangled Kid legitimately looks stupid. One of my favorite superheroes is the Shield. The Shield looks awesome. I'm not a huge Captain America fan, but Captain America looks alright. Like, he doesn't look stupid. Wonder Woman, she even does the Star Spangled thing and doesn't look stupid. So, to me, like, Star Spangled Kid dropped the ball. I don't know why he's that weird, but he just has the weirdest suit. So, Star Spangled Kid is depressed sitting on the sidewalk because he comes from the 1950s. And when the JSA saved him from like a time warp, he essentially brought him to the 1970s where he can't make sense of the world anymore. So he's going through something similar to Captain America, where Captain America was frozen, and then when he comes out, he's like, oh, this future world is so different, and I miss the world I came from, and I'm having like this future shock trying to understand everything. And what I don't really like is how this book sets that up for us, because Star Spangled Kid is so happy to just fly around and like whoop bad guys. But as soon as he's done whooping bad guys, he's like conflicted by his position in time. It just was such a sudden like halt. Like the panel directly before Star Spangled Kid being depressed is him being really happy fighting criminals. So I think it would have been better if they did it like how a lot of Batman comics do it nowadays, where if Batman is struggling with something psychologically, he's thinking about it as he's whooping the bad guys. So he's in a fight, but he's also in a fight psychologically. You have two conflicts that you're viewing at the same time. By separating these conflicts, it's just really jarring and really awkward. He loses like all his confidence within like a panel, and it's too much. So an earthquake hits, buildings start falling down, cars flip over, and Star Spangled Kid isn't ready. He even stumbles onto the ground. There's a woman holding a kid, and the woman's like lifting her arm up like, oh, and there's a big chunk of building that's falling directly down toward the woman and her child. And Star Spangled Kid makes a force field at a distance, I think. It's actually weird because they don't tell you what he does. Yeah. See, this is the weird part. So the debris is about to fall on her, and he kind of like points it forward, his cosmic rod, and the debris just kind of explodes. And when I first read it, I thought he like made a force field at a distance to protect them. But I think the same way that he's able to like melt guns, he can shoot an energy bolt out of the rod. Man, I wish I could find the area of this book where he describes how his powers work. Let's see. See, I don't know. I can't remember at all how his power's supposed to work. I just remembered that it was like really, really convoluted. Here it is. He says, I told you, pal, is a cosmic rod. It picks up starlight and turns it into pure energy. Of course, I don't need it for everything. Sometimes I can do myself. So, also, yeah, okay, he did tell them that it was like, no, he didn't. I keep going backwards because he never tells the criminals that he has a cosmic rod. He just says he has, like, I'm glad I got this rod. It makes a real nifty force field. And then he goes out of his way to, like, tell them exposition of, like, how the rod works. So I guess Star Spangled Kid, his main weakness is that if there were no stars, then he couldn't get powers. But then, you know, he would also be dead too. So, so I guess it doesn't matter. That was different. I wouldn't have expected the rod to have worked that way. But he essentially has his own like power cosmic kind of thing. He's an interesting mashup of a lot of different ideas. Like I think he had a lot of potential. His suit just looks really stupid. I'm also reading in black and white, but I think in color he looks even dumber. So I'm kind of glad that it's just like that it's a black and white version. It looks kind of decent when you don't see like the full blue part of the leotard. Okay, so Hawkman and Dr. Midnight finally show up, and Hawkman's like, we gotta help Star Spangled Kid stop this earthquake. Because like you said, Dr. Midnight, if all three of the disasters go as the communication said, the entire world is going to end. And Dr. Midnight says, no, we can't. I talked to him with like a doctor-patient relationship conversation that really I shouldn't share, but I'm going to share with you anyways. His confidence has been incredibly shaken. And we can't let him lose his confidence. His self-reliance will be destroyed. So we have to make sure that we don't interfere, or or he'll lose confidence. And the only reason why that's so stupid is is because Star Spangled Kid is like a kid, and he has shaken confidence. And if you guys help him stop this earthquake, it's not gonna like destroy his confidence forever. You guys can still help him with that. It's just you're risking too much to say like, no, he needs to rely on himself, and if he can't, the whole world will be destroyed. Like that's what's dumb about it. But they do say that we should follow him instead, and if he can't handle the situation, then we've got it. And then Hawkman goes like, we'll play it your way. I just hope the whole world isn't destroyed because we just let a kid try to stop an earthquake. It's just really ridiculous. So meanwhile, in space, and they say like in a spot some 50,000 miles above Earth, there's this spaceship that's orbiting around the equator, and they introduce Brainwave, who I think is like the coolest part of this book. So Brainwave supposedly is a character that like you should already know about. They talk about him like he's already been established, and I kind of like that. Like he has a full history behind him, but he has this thing where he's obsessed with beauty, but he's a psychic. And his name is like Henry King. So Henry King was a psychic, but then the Justice Society of America put him in prison, and inside of his prison he went mad because all he wanted was like beauty. He loves to like see beautiful things, like beautiful works of art and statues and things like that. And to satiate his craving for like seeing beauty was to steal. He would steal these paintings and he would steal these statues so that he could enjoy the beauties of art. He's like a connoisseur of art. And because he was trapped in a jail cell for so long without being able to like see the beautiful works of art that he has stolen, he went mad. And now that he's like madly insane, he's causing all these disasters to occur like across the planet. And he was the one who sent the communication to the Justice Society so that they would go around to all these disasters. But his main plan is that he wants revenge on the Justice Society for sending him to prison. Pretty much. Oh yeah, and he was put in solitary, so like he couldn't even enjoy the company of other people. But I don't really think that's what he cared about. He just cares about beauty, and he couldn't see anyone or anything that was beautiful, so he freaked out. Which is interesting. That might actually be a little subconscious thing. Like maybe he doesn't see beauty within himself either. So like he has this craving for beauty, and maybe he kind of hopes that by collecting all these beautiful things that it can like make him beautiful. I like that he has this weird mental tick that makes him do it, rather than just being a thief who likes the thrill of stealing things. He has like this obsession. A lot of Batman villains are interesting because of their obsessions. So I really like Brainwave's concept, and him being a powerful psychic who also, through like stealing, has access to things like this giant ship. All that's like really cool. Like I kind of dig that as like him being a main villain. So next they introduce Robin, and Robin is acting as his Dick Grayson persona. He's dressed up in a suit, and he worked for the UN, I'm pretty sure. That or he's a spy. I can't really tell. Actually, he's talking to this man, and this man says like, "We have high hopes for your report to the UN." But he also refers to Robin as like having a mission. So he might be a spy in this world, and he reports to the UN. But I don't know. Maybe he's a professor. At one point, he says, I intend to recommend a study on the UN attitude toward the policies of apartheid. And I don't know, they really don't tell you what's going on. You just know that he's like at a cocktail party in Cape Town and they're talking about the United Nations. It really doesn't matter. This big billowing of like noxious gas spreads throughout Cape Town. People are getting knocked out, and Robin like runs to his bedroom where he changes out of his suit and tie into the Robin uniform, and he calls himself the Ex-Boy Wonder, which is weird. Because you shouldn't have to do that. Just call yourself Robin now, right? Like, you're an adult. Just claim the Robin moniker, but stop saying Ex-Boy Wonder. It's just weird. So, Green Lantern and Dr. Fate show up after the noxious gas thing has been revealed, like after it's appeared. And the narrator has a big point of saying, like, if they had arrived as it was happening, maybe they could have prevented it, kind of thing. But no, they've arrived just at the time where they just got to deal with it. And one thing that they pointed out really hard at the beginning, like in the prologue of this book, is that in this world, there isn't Aquaman, but there is like Dr. Fate. And in this world, we have a Green Lantern, but he doesn't have this alien ring. He has like a mystic ring that's based on magic. But then, when they fly into the gas, Green Lantern, who's this mystical Green Lantern, says, my ring does a spectral analysis of the gas and shows that it's composed of fluorocarbons, and like, it's a very like scientific breakdown that you got from your magic ring. And I wouldn't focus on this that hard, except for the fact that Green Lantern, throughout this book, as he talks to Dr. Fate, talks about how, like, man, and I just wish I was smart and, like, a scientific mind. And Dr. Fate's like, what do you mean? And he says, well, I can't solve problems through just thinking about them. I don't have, like, the capacity to just conceptualize about this gas and, like, create a cure. I can't just, like, make the antidote for this gas. I have to solve my problems using, like, basic wit and, like, physical ingenuity, but I can't just think things out like you do, Dr. Fate. And it's kind of interesting. Like, I think they make a cool pairing, these two characters, simply because of what they say to each other. Dr. Fate cast a spell that makes it rain, so it can try and clear away the gas. But more gas seems to be appearing to counteract the whole rain thing. So even though the rain is making the gas more diluted, as more gas comes in, the rain seems to be less and less effective. So Green Lantern plugs up the big hole in the ground where the gas is coming out, and that for a while, like, resolves the conflict. But then Robin is, like, knocked unconscious. Apparently when he, like, leapt through that window, he forgot to put in his nose filters. So he immediately got exposed to the gas and just was knocked out. He was no help. So Dr. Fate and Green Lantern help Robin recover. But the giant cork that Green Lantern made to plug the hole pops out like it's a friggin' bottle of champagne. And the blast from it popping out knocks down Dr. Fate and Green Lantern. They're both just, like, floored. Okay. So the next part actually is pretty interesting. So we catch up with Flash and Wildcat, who are in Peking, China. And the Flash and Wildcat, their conversation with each other is really, really weird. Because the way Wildcat is talking is that the Flash somehow is helping Wildcat move. Like, the way that the panel is shown is that Wildcat is completely off the ground, and the Flash is running ahead of Wildcat, and Wildcat is trapped within that dashing of air that like the Flash leaves behind, as if like the Flash's running force is moving Wildcat, which is crazy. Like, it's a weird concept that I haven't seen before, but it makes it seem like if Flash wanted to, he could run past you and like lift you off the ground with that air that he's like pulling with him, and then drag you with him. And and that seems really fascinating and really dangerous all at the same time. But let's see. Wildcat and the Flash talk to each other, and Wildcat's like, if I wasn't so good on my feet, with your sudden stop, I would have been like splattered across the ground. Like, I would have just died. And the Flash says, like, I don't care. There's a giant volcano. Like, shut up. Like we have a job. And Wildcat looks up at the volcano. He jumps on a motorcycle that he just steals from this random Chinese man. And he says, like, the people of China won't mind if I borrow this transportation, don't you? And then it's like, and he's like talking to the man, and he like steals the man's bike. But it looks like he steals the man's bike right from under him. So the man was riding the bike, and he like grabs the bike and like rips it from under him and like gets on it himself and like rides forward. So the Flash tells him that he has to do that because the Flash is going to need full freedom of movement to fight this battle, which I think only adds on to the idea that, like, Flash is somehow making him go faster in this earlier panel. And I really want to see more of the Flash doing things I didn't know the Flash could do. That was really interesting. So they ride toward the volcano. The Flash does something super predictable where he runs around the volcano until he makes a trench for all the lava to flow into. Like, we haven't seen that like a million times. Like, if you've ever watched a Super Friend cartoon, you know what they do when there's a volcano. So Wildcat shows up, and he's talking to the Flash, and the Flash is like, this is just a temporary solution. Like, eventually the lava's going to overflow from this trench, and that's just going to be the end of it. Here's where it gets really, really weird and nothing makes sense. So Power Girl shows up, and this is the first character that they've shown that's like a younger hero that the other heroes didn't know was a person. Because Dr. Midnight knew who Star Spangled Kid was, and so did Hawkman. But Dr. Midnight knew more about Star Spangled Kid than Hawkman did. Dr. Fate and Green Lantern knew who Robin was. But Power Girl, when she shows up, Flash and Wildcat literally says, who the heck is that? Like he's never seen this person before. And Power Girl, when she's introduced, I really, really don't like this part. I don't like this part at all. Because the narrator says, we'll have to wait a minute for the answer to Wildcat's startled question, since what's happening is more interesting than who's doing it, and what's happening should be fairly obvious. And then they have the weirdest panel of Power Girl flying in and moving this weird thing that looks like a tongue. Like, she's just like pushing it. And then you hear it goes crunch as she's like moving this weird tongue-shaped thing over the volcano. And then Wildcat says, I don't believe I saw that, Speedster. And then Flash goes, Wildcat, neither do I. Now, I think this might have been really obvious when it was in color, maybe. But in black and white, I really don't have any idea what she did. Because they didn't show her, like, go to the ground and, like, lift the ground up and, like, move it over the volcano. You know what I mean? And we already get to see what the ground looks like when the Flash is running around. Like, we know what ground is. But the thing that she moves doesn't necessarily look like ground. Like, it it probably looked better in color, where you could tell what she was doing. But without it being in color, it was just like really confusing. Like I didn't like the fact that it said like what should be happening is fairly obvious. Like I have no idea what she just did. They never show a panel where she like grabbed the ground. So I'm just assuming that she moved the ground because they said it was fairly obvious. But I don't know. I don't really know. That's just what they're saying. So the way they draw Power Girl, my friend said looks like Joan Crawford, and I assume they probably did that on purpose. But Power Girl says that she wanted to wait a few more months before revealing herself, but due to all these disasters that are happening, she decided that it was about time. And she mentions her cousin. And then Flash and Wildcat are like, look, we don't know who you are, so how are we going to know who your cousin is? And then she's like, I'm Power Girl. It's a better name. It's as good a name as any other name. And then she says, I'm the cousin of Superman. And it's really weird the way that she says, I'm Power Girl, because it's like saying, I'm Jet Black, because Jet Black is as good a name as any other name I could have picked. Like, like she was very indifferent about it. And I guess if you're going to be indifferent about it, why don't you just tell them your name? Why don't you not have a superhero name and you just go by whatever your actual name is, right? Because she just didn't care. She was like, I guess I need a name, whatever, Power Girl. But Power Girl, hold on, because now I'm trying to remember what happens. Okay, so the Flash talks about how, like, Superman is supposed to be the last person to Krypton, and then Power Girl says, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, it's a long story, we're under attack. And them being under attack is very sudden, but they get attacked by these Chinese soldiers for some reason, even though they just, like, saved them from the volcano. I don't know. I don't know why. And then, so Power Girl essentially says, like, neither of you are quick enough to, like, stop this. And then, boom, Power Girl, like, stomps her foot. And by stomping her foot, she makes, like, a bunch of the soldiers fall on the ground. Then Wildcat, who is, like, a heavyweight boxer who's become a superhero, essentially is like, oh, well, all you people with powers don't really understand the joys of just punching things. Your powers have made you forget how awesome it is just to hit something with your fist. And he talks about how, like, I will never forget how awesome it is just to punch stuff. And it is cool to actually, like, see someone just punch stuff. I'll be honest. If the soldiers never showed up, Wildcat wouldn't have really done anything interesting except steal a man's motorcycle. Which might actually be why these soldiers are after them, because all these soldiers happen to be riding motorcycles, so Wildcat probably just, like, stole a soldier's motorcycle. So, fair enough, actually. I think he, like, caused his own usefulness by committing a crime. And then fighting the soldiers, even though he's in the wrong. That's actually really bad, I just realized that. And when they say, like, we're under attack, the soldiers just show up on their bikes with guns. But none of them, like, fire on them at all. They just kind of show up. And I would show up, too. If, like, a bunch of people showed up in costume and one of them stole, like, one of our motorcycles. In other words, like, Wildcat's just in the wrong. He's just doing whatever he wants. So, Power Girl explains that, like, with her powers, she just gets around. So she's just been around the planet. And the story that we've been reading is everything that Power Girl has been seeing as she's been, like, flying around the world. So she just, like, knows these things because she was in Seattle and she was in Cape Town. And now she's in Peking. Like, she's going around and she sees that all these disasters are happening. And she understands what's going on. So the Wildcat feels weird about Power Girl. He's very, like, apprehensive. and he doesn't like the parts of the story where she says that the Justice Society of America is being helped by like all these young adults, all these people who are like way younger than them. And he says like the JSA is the JSA and only the members of the JSA are the JSA. And then Power Girl is like, well, we're not the JSA and we're helping you. And she just makes up a name the same way that she says Power Girl's like an alright name. She's just like, we're the Super Squad, and the Super Squad's helping the JSA now. So she grabs Wildcat's arm, and he screams in pain. That, or he's just surprised that he's been lifted up. But it's just the sudden yow. It's not like whoa. It's like yow, like ah. And I imagine it would hurt if Power Girl like grabbed your wrist and then just flew up like, pew, like just straight into the air. so, so I interpreted it as like, ooh, like that really hurt. But Power Girl is asked by Wildcat, like, who is it that we're all supposed to be fighting? And then Power Girl says, his name is Brainwave. So I guess she also has flown through space and knows that like Brainwave is behind it. The only reason why I'm upset that she knows that Brainwave is behind it is that I assume that means that she flew into space too, and she saw Brainwave, like she saw that part of the story. And if she saw that part of the story and she has the powers of Superman, why don't you just stop him? She knows it's him. So why don't you just like end the conflict yourself? Because you have the powers of Superman and you can do that. So that's All-Star Comics 58. I think they did a great job of the prologue. It really helps to tell you that this isn't the DC Comics universe that you're used to. It shows you that characters in this world are different from the characters of the normal DC Universe world. I liked the pairing of Green Lantern and Dr. Fate. I think if there was a book that was just Green Lantern and Dr. Fate, I would love that book. Star Spangled Kid, his powers are cool, but his costume's really lame. Power Girl's not made to be a likable character in this first book at all. Like, I didn't really enjoy Power Girl's characterization. More or less because she considers herself like better than the other characters who are like experienced heroes, and she's been in hiding. Like she hasn't been like fighting crime this whole time, so she just seems a little too uppity to me. But then I don't like how they treat her either. They seem a little too uppity. Like they were in her position before, where they just were like first starting fighting crime, so they should be more understanding. But if she was trained by Superman and she's been like watching from afar, then she should be more understanding too. I don't really understand their relationship right now. Robin was kind of cool. I kind of like the concept of Dick Grayson saying like, "Yeah, I'm an adult and I'm gonna go out on my own," kind of thing, but still being Robin. Like you don't have to create an entirely new identity for you to do that. I'm not saying I don't like Nightwing. I'm not saying I don't like Nightwing. I'm not saying I don't like Grayson. But him just being Robin as an adult is a completely fine idea. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I kind of liked him being in his business suit and talking about like United Nations relationships, because Nightwing normally is just like a guy who lives in Bloodhaven and he pays his rent and he's a cop. And then when he's not a cop, he's Nightwing. That's cool. And it keeps Nightwing very street level, which is fine. But Dick Grayson does have a lot of potential, and he literally could be whatever he wants. So for him to be like a spy or like a member of the United Nations or something like that is really cool. He has the skills to do that, so why not? But it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. You can still have Dick Grayson be like a super spy or like be working for the government, but you can still also have Robin being Robin. It's a really nice touch. I really dig it. So it's a good introduction to the story. I like that you get to see all the members of the team on like this first page. All of them do have a part in the story. They're not just like there. And that was one of my biggest things that kind of made me want to read the story, but made me cautious. Was that if when you have big teams, you run into the problem of not everybody on the team can get screen time. You know what I mean? People can get held back. Um, like where it's like you guys stay in the headquarters and like watch the monitors. We're gonna go out and fight. No, they split the team up. They had a big enough event to where everyone could be useful in some capacity, except for Wildcat, who just causes more problems. So yeah, I dig it. So far, so good. I don't know how I feel about the whole Super Squad thing. It's kind of lame, but I'm hoping that it'll get better. Like the Super Squad is the only part that I just feel weird about. Star Spangled Kid's kind of cool. Robin's cool, but then like I don't really dig Power Girl that much. And for her to give them a name, but like Star Spangled Kid and Robin and Power Girl, I don't think I've met yet. But she's like, but that's our team that we haven't formed. You know, it's just kind of weird. But I do think All-Star Comics number 58 is a really good starting point. Them bringing up continually that like this is happening on Earth 2. This is an Earth 2 thing. No. I feel like it would be annoying for some, but I actually really enjoy that because I love like multiverse stories and stories that talk about like this is how an alternate Earth is, and here's the differences between this world and that world. They're all really great concepts that I enjoy. So yeah, that was Action Comics number, not Action Comics. That was All-Star Comics number 58. Next up will be All-Star Comics number 59, continuing with the Brainwave story. I haven't read number 59 yet, so once I read it, I'll come back on and do an All-Star Comics review for issue number 59. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any comments or recommendations, feel free to put them in the comment section below. Real quick, I'm going to go on Amazon and find this book and share a link with you guys on the live stream. On the live stream, to see if you guys would want to pick up a copy. There were a few guys at the comic shop who were talking about starting a podcast, like a comic book podcast, and they said that they know like one extra guy who they know would be like perfect for it, and then I know how to do the live stream on YouTube. I think that actually would be a really cool idea to do a comics podcast. What do you guys think of this? How are ways that we could make this better? I'm sure other people would probably really add a lot to this. I know there's a way for me to make money on this through Amazon. You can do like a sponsored link thing. I'm not going to do that for this one. I'm just going to post a link, and it's just going to be an Amazon link. But I think in the future I will use sponsored links. It doesn't cost you any money to use a sponsored link. It's just if you buy. Oh, okay. So I just realized that the link section of the live stream allows me to get the link of this live stream to share it online with you guys. But I can post it in the group chat for any live viewers who are interested in buying All-Star Comics Volume 1. So, yeah, if you guys are not watching this live, then you'll be able to find it on Amazon. They have the full volume in color, it looks like, for $25, which is not bad. I got this for $17 and it's black and white. But getting it in color, like these same stories, I think you're not going to get all of these stories. Oh, no. I'm actually looking at this. I think this is like the original All-Star Comics. Like, because this is the revival. I think that's actually the original. Like, before all this Super Squad stuff, That's probably really good. Yeah, definitely check that out. I might want to buy that. I might start reviewing those once I finish this up. We go back in time and see how it used to be. But until then, thanks for watching, and Jet Black, logging out.